We're good to go. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, my fellow artists, writers, all creatives out there. This is Mad Poet Podcast. I am your host, the Mad Poet, Alex Murdoch, and just here with some good friends of mine to talk some game, and just hold that conversation. Art, as we know, art imitates life, and vice versa. So this is primarily, one of the things about these chats that I like to. Well, this is really what this platform's about, and primarily it's about giving creatives a platform. If nowhere else, they can come here and sit and have a chat, and if they want to speak to an artist like myself, um, they can. And so, I've had the opportunity to just speak and converse with various different artists about from different crafts, and it's been a pleasure. So this is where this idea came from, to just have people like-minded like ourselves. Not necessarily to, but the primary idea is that we just, a place to just have conversations, and just sometimes, instead of creating and showcasing our creation, we could probably showcase the process, or the internalization process of our creating, that leads to the actual creation in itself. So that's the idea behind, what we do, what this platform ideally was for when I created, and just, it's developed over the years. So I appreciate you for giving me some of your time. Got the Strings, Mr. Strings, and Lee. Good to see both of you, and positive to have you here. How are you two doing today? How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, not too bad at all.
I'm highly favored, my
Strings, how you
bro.
doing?
Highly favored.
Yeah, me and you was tough at the game the last time, but yeah, man, Strings is one of those characters. It's always good to have him on, because of his background. He's always coming, his inspiration with to do with like comic books and all different type of situation that, it just kind of inspires him to write his pieces and his poetry. It's always interesting to see where his mind goes to certain topics that we spoke on. I can't remember, but I made a clip of it actually, but I can't remember. I think I had it written down.
Okay.
We have this quote, so I wanted to share it. I want to share it with Lee before we get into anything, because I thought, we both thought it was quite a profound quote. Strings, I'm not sure if you remember the quote. Remember the one I read to you?
Oh,
Do you remember it?
if I hear it, I'll know it. Also, Lee, good to have you. Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me.
I'll find it in time.
Oh,
But let's the primary topic I really wanted to just kind of share with you. I think, obviously we kind of had a little breakdown of it,
mhm.
but to give more context behind it, I just had this whole situation of, I keep going through this whole situation of, I'm observing sometimes, and sometimes I'm just watching people, and sometimes I would ask myself, like, any just certain things where it's just like, why do you do that? Why do you decide? Why do you, like, sort of entertain certain ideas, or you do certain things, certain activities, and it could be a cultural thing, and it could just be habits. And a lot of times, what I get back is the fact that they would retort to me the same thing. It's like a commonality, where the same retort in saying, I saw my father, I saw my father doing this growing up, or like, you know, I went to church because my family always went to church. They always preached going to church, and so it only felt right. And it got me thinking, if people just, if the majority of people, if that's the thing where saying that it is, but if the majority seem to just want to always do what they saw people they somewhat are close to or they envy do, how do we truly know ourselves if what we're doing in this day and age, when we come off, sound mind and body, and we're still doing the same thing, how do we really know what is meant for us and what does it mean for us? Do we actually truly know ourselves? So this is where I came from with the whole idea of where I belong. Where do I belong? Do I truly know where I belong? And obviously, there's a larger context behind this whole question. But this is the crux of the matter that I really wanted to kind of speak on. So, Strings, you want to kick us off? You have any ideas? What you want to share with me?
Oh man. Funny enough, that topic came up in my next piece that I'm gonna drop on my blog. I want to say this week. And I was talking to a colleague, and it was talking about how consciousness and just
Yeah.
differentiating the fact between. I said that consciousness is the breath of life, but your soul determines the quality of life that you have. So, because as the moment someone does something that is very abnormal, we
Yeah.
call it soulless because of the detachment from the thinking you have from someone that just breathes, defecates, and goes to sleep. So, with that being said, I circled back to just saying that our whole purpose is to discover who we are. That's why everyone is here. That's a lifelong journey, and it goes way beyond what you think that means, and that's the whole point of it. Because, like you said earlier, even your food choices, I discovered, they're not yours.
Yeah.
So, DNA, trauma, emotions, etc., they all get passed down. And while you're filtering through those like a Rolodex, you are obligated at some point, depending on the person, to pick up pieces of what makes you you. And in doing that, it helps you figure out where you do belong. And you can realize when people get too comfortable in a space and they overshare or they trauma dump, thinking, oh yeah, this space is meant for me to do all these things. And it's like, no, it's not. So yeah, that's just where I'm at with it. It's a lifelong journey.
I think we all belong
Enforcely.
everywhere. And what I mean by that is, well, firstly, that it depends on what the definition of belonging is and how broad or narrow that definition is for each person. Because if it's like in the context of an area physically, we might be in one place. But let's say if it's in the context of, I guess, like a nationality, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a diaspora, that's another thing. And then eventually, like, we all belong on this planet, right?
Yeah.
So what determines where you wait?
I suppose I could probably break it down. Not necessarily in the I suppose you could say, the obvious things like, like things that we can just easily just attach ourselves to, like, like I said, religion or like, just general company or like, man, I belong to this job or whatnot. No. I'd say enlightenment. And I would say, in terms of like, for example, the vehicles that we have, in my opinion, is a craft, because I think a craft is a reflection of a deeper meaning of who you are, or who you want, who you are deep down in your core, kind of thing. And I say enlightenment because it sorts to shine light. Now you can also use religion because in essence, religions, I believe, is also supposed to be a vehicle
Definitely.
to go to sort of share enlightenment, or for you to find enlightenment, to discover your deeper self, sort of like your God within, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm speaking about is more along that line,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think as String said, like, we're here to learn who we are. And I think
Mm.
in terms of vehicles, this whole life is a vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Definitely.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still a little bit, general.
Yeah. We're here
Um,
to. You get me? We're here to shrink it,
mm, yeah.
fit it in a
But for me
capsule.
personally, that would be my answer to it. I think I've come to this point now where I think there's so many different cultures, and I think we've spoken about different things before, but in essence, I even see football as a sort of religion. Do you get what I mean? It's because culture is next to religion in a sense, and culture is built around something that eventually turns into something, and religion, or should I say, culture, is something that transcends time in a sense. It's if it stays around long enough, it's allowed to evolve. Do you get what I mean? And I
Definitely.
think that's pretty much what you would. That's synonymous to religion, because over time, if you see something long enough, eventually it probably will turn into a sort of religion. And I'm just saying religion because, so sort of like, to kind of share, to juxtapose between the comparisons, dichotomy between the two, but not necessarily as in like, what this is. But when I look at, certain things and what they do, what people do, and I'm just using the football as an example, and the conviction behind it, and the fact that when you think about certain people that are so deeply enshrined in this thing, they would die for this thing. Is there any deeper cause, than self-sacrifice?
Mm.
They also say that's the definition of crazy, and I would get that from more of a relationship context where, like, somebody would die for somebody else because simply because I love this person,
You're
and
shaking the
hence the reason
table,
why they say
bro. Shaking the table.
that's the reason why they say love is the definition of crazy. Well, essence, you're crazy because it's like you value somebody else over yourself, hence the sacrifice that comes with it, or the willingness to do it. So I guess what I'm saying is, yes, there are vehicles out there to somewhat find enlightenment, but how do we truly know we're enlightened?
You got anything, Lee?
Yeah, no, well, I can't answer that question. I don't know, but I find it quite interesting, I guess, that people will die for things that, like the conviction, as you said, behind football and stuff like that, and what that brings out of people. But I think it's, for me personally, I am not passionate enough about anything to have that kind of conviction, but I think it's also because I am centered within myself.
Hmm.
So there's the difference between attachment and love. So
Yeah.
when you mentioned someone dying for someone because of love, I don't personally see that as love. I see that as an attachment in order to validate your existence.
Interesting.
So,
I agree. I really agree.
so when the question, what was the question? Where do we belong?
Yeah.
I feel like parts of that is kind of like asking, what do I think I lack in order to feel like I need to belong somewhere?
Woo. You two are shaking tables this evening.
So I suppose what you're saying is you don't think there is such a thing as belonging.
I think we all belong. And I think the question, like when we doubt that we do, like
Yeah.
what is it that we, like why do we think that we don't belong?
I mean, isn't that a little bit contradicting? We belong, but
That's
you can't
life, man.
you can't exactly define it. It lacks definition. It's a little bit general.
I
That's
can add
it.
to it. I think it makes sense because until it's like the whole saying in it, a man has to realize that he is an island. Until that, he goes wandering wherever to figure out where he is. And I think I think I've sent this to you. You're lost until you arrive. Now the arrival
Absolutely.
is ultimately, everyone can agree, is yourself, but I think the fun or the contradictory is finding out how to get there.
Yeah.
And I really like what Lee said about the difference between love and attachment, because for whatever it is, I love football, I love film, I love story, but you are quickly reminded of what a fanatic is and why I don't want to be a fanatic. Because when you start to pour your identity into these things,
Yeah.
is when it starts to become okay. There's a no-go, and these vehicles,
Yeah.
sports, our vehicle, music, our vehicle, depending on the individual and where they are, the difference for enlightenment in depending on the vehicle is when it helps you understand a greater sense of yourself and the connection to your existence, and you just trying to find your place, because we all have to find our place. That is what the human experience is, and we've all signed up to play a part of that. So with the story, football, or any vehicle, the difference I find when individuals ask about what that vehicle has done for them is help
Yeah.
them see themselves in a better light. And you can see professionals, your favorite MP, if I may call you that to abbreviate, Kobe, as an
Yeah.
example, obsessed with stats and winning. But then you can take another player, not as good as him, but can say that they were in a place where if they didn't have basketball, they may have been on a course of, a very short life.
I mean, for me, from what you both just explained to me, it seems to me that we're sort of speaking on we're looking at two different directions of the same coin type of thing, or speaking about the same topic, but we're going in two different directions. And even what you mentioned about fanatic, for me personally, that's like the darker road.
Absolutely.
But and we're still just talking about vehicles, but at the same time, there's the other side where it's like, I think the other side would be where maybe I'm looking towards more like the enlightenment. But as we said, enlightenment can be. It depends on what your intentions are behind enlightenment. Is it good? Is it bad? I think when we're speaking about the fanatic, I think that's a darker version of enlightenment. When we
Yeah.
think when we talk about enlightenment is in the way I'm speaking about. I think it's more. Wait, I think it's empowerment, upliftment, betterment of self.
Mm.
I would say, but the one thing I can say is that whichever direction you decide to go in, you have to make a choice. You have to decide. You have to stand on it. I would say that's the one thing I don't quite hear from either of you. That decision to make that choice to be like, you know what, this is what it is.
Oh, if that's the case, I made mine long time ago.
What
Long time ago.
choice are we making?
Sorry.
What choice are we making?
Which
We
side?
just talk about the topic. No, not in terms of which side. I'm saying like to make, but I'm just saying using that this an example because whether you're talking about somebody that the fanatic which went the other road, or you're talking about somebody that found enlightenment through religion or something like that, there's a choice behind it,
Mm.
and I think this person, whoever they might be, this example, there's a choice there. There's a conviction behind this, saying that this is who I am now, and I'm just saying, Lee. um Strings, it didn't sound like there was something there, just like, okay, this is who I am, like this is,
Yeah.
what I mean, this is what the conviction behind my actions, this is the enlightenment, the direction and enlightenment that I'm chasing, that I want for myself, type of
Yeah.
thing.
Um.
You can't be every and be great um at one thing, kind of thing. So this is what I'm saying. It's just like you can't choose everything, you have to choose one thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. My response to that is, I think your life experiences help you govern where you end up.
Mm,
And the beauty in that is no one here can ultimately dictate the experiences that you will have or will be granted to you in order to just say, yeah, this is going to happen and then I'm going to go this way. It happens. So that
mm,
way you can pick apart yourself to figure out
yeah.
which decision you go. Because I'll just do these two quick points quickly. The fanatic is such a road of like jaw-dropping excitement because the dark side of that is there's a need for approval on from people outside of him,
Mm,
mostly driven by ego to attain success and mastery, um, at the point of like abandoning themselves in order to be great. Necessary, yes,
yeah.
because what would life be if everyone was just on the same path? And then the side that I'm on, which is I would even say ordained at this point, is because um, you sit with yourself long enough, and you do the work,
Yeah.
you come to realize that, for me anyway, there's only this. There's
Mm,
only to grow and to be better. And the more I do that, the more I can relax in a sense of knowing that I'm here to enjoy this experience and still
mm,
be better. I don't need to do that at an extreme rate because enlightenment, I think the energy that comes with that is grace, calm, and not to say that phonetics can't be, but that's the word that is described with how they respond to being better is just constant rush, to get to this destination. In enlightenment, true
mm.
enlightenment, there's no destination.
The
There isn't.
destination is yourself.
Bingo.
Belonging is coming back to yourself.
And I think Will Smith said that not too long ago in the interview, that when you reach the pinnacle of wealth on this dimension, you realize very quickly there's nothing else. The only thing you haven't explored is you, and that's endless.
Yeah.
That's why they say, or celebrities say, I wish everyone was rich so that they could get that. But not
Yeah.
some people don't need all that to get that.
And I think there isn't a need to make one choice. Like, our identities are forever evolving. If in this moment I decide that I don't want to be something, I don't have to be that thing.
Absolutely.
So this idea of the fanatic, they're kind of banking on this identity that is not really their own, because it's such a fixed, narrow identity. Like, they are more expansive than that, but because of the fear of being outside of that, or like how other people may see them if they weren't what they've always been, there is like a reluctancy to see outside of it.
I actually love what String says. He kind of led to the idea where I was going, but I don't necessarily want to fixate too much on the fanatic side of it, because it's just an example of like the two directions, the opposing directions of like the positive and the negative side of the choices sort of things that the roads might lead. But Strings said it's something to do with, and this is essentially the idea behind what I'm saying. Um, it's not the destination; it's the journey. Without a doubt, I would agree with that. But it's not necessarily what I'm sort of focusing on. As we said, it's the journey, right? But let's just say you need a vehicle for the journey, don't you?
Definitely.
And so essentially what I'm saying is, what is the in my head, my vehicle would be my craft. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think craft is next to, it's so much of a like a somewhat of a definition of who you are, and it's like it's like a mirror effect, and it's also, and if you think about a mirror, you can see yourself, you can learn about yourself. So that's why I'm using that. That's why I'm thinking about craft. Now, when I say craft, that's that's more of a general thing, because it covers so many different ranges and aspects of life. Like I said, religion. I think I'm not religious, but I am a craftsman in terms of my craft as a writer. Do you get what I mean? So that's my thing. But I think a lot of people, like we already mentioned, football. Um, So I suppose that's where I'm heading towards the discovery part of it, as in like, where do you belong? Not necessarily that you belong to a craft, but you have a vehicle that might be a craft that you subscribe to, that's supposed to take you on this journey towards enlightenment.
I think it depends on whether that vehicle is benefiting yourself or your ego.
Sorry.
So if you are using your craft to benefit your ego, you won't be able to reach enlightenment in that way. So I guess that's like, going back to the fanatic quickly. It's like it.
The Joker, bro. I told you.
I stop this drink. Every day you come up with a joke.
Like, it's part of the equation.
Carry on, Lee. What are you gonna say?
I got lost. I got lost. So yeah.
Apologies. But yeah, if it helps bring you back to the point you were making, I really like what you said about or if I change my own words, I think as of late, my vehicle has become life itself. And yeah, I was speaking to a colleague today at work, and she asked me, where do I see myself next? And I said, you know what, honestly, I don't know. Because
Great.
because where I am now wasn't part of the plan in my head.
Yeah.
So as soon as I detached from the plan in my head,
Mm.
it gave me the clarity to say, you know what, as long as I have myself, I can consultate with life to help govern where I need to go. And
Mm.
that became very important for me, because if I try and limit myself to what I would like, then there's so many parts of myself that I don't see in order to get to where I would like to go. I.e., if I have these goals in mind that I like to achieve, but
Yeah.
in between those periods of when I see myself doing these things, I believe teachers have to take the long way, because when they go on a different path, they pick up so many experiences in order to help them and others to help understand
Mm.
what it is about life and where they do belong and how things make sense. Because some people become overnight successes, like we were talking about in our
Yeah.
last session, and those who are ready when they get their moment is because of those experiences they allowed themselves to be open to not be governed by ego, to say, you know what, let's see where this part of life takes me with this experience and skills that I have. So craft, whether someone, even someone helping someone is also craft. And I'm glad you said that, bro, because I've asked myself that a while ago. Just because some people aren't creative,
Yeah.
but they're still good at what it is that they do on a daily basis, that is their gift, and that is what they're here to hone.
I agree. I agree. And that's why, like I said, craft is a general thing. It's just
Definitely.
so there are technical crafts, but there's also I suppose, to be more specific, to kind of broad stroke, would another word would be calling. Your calling.
Yeah.
Because I say, a family man, have been a family man, that's a calling. You know, it can be um that symbol, but it's something so important. It's something so big, and it's something so filling. But I would say also, it's all derivatives of life. So I'd say, as much as we're saying life, I think life is just a thing that it's naturally a part of it. It's by default. It's kind of like myself, whereas me, I'm a person that I write from my life experiences. So I think it's somewhat fuel, and it's also something to sort of like a mirror, to see yourself, to learn from yourself, etc., etc. Because that's the only way to teach other people. You have to learn
Mm.
first before you can teach. So I think, like I was saying, life is a part of it. So I think the ultimate test, or that I'm really trying to figure out is, how do we know how do we know that we truly belong, for one, or how do we know that what we're searching for, there's the evidence that we see, the evidence that we experience is actually tangible.
Oh.
I think it's when you stop looking.
Whew.
Will you stop?
Yeah. Bro, she's spitting. Because to mirror that, my answer would be acceptance. That's one. And that's a very deep feeling that it just comes up over and over again.
It, I still don't. I'm still not convinced. I still don't think that's enough.
Well, you know what? Um, your second part is what made that question interesting. Evidence. What does evidence look like to you? Because I'm one who's had very out of this world um, instances happen to me.
Okay,
But prior
I
to
want to
that,
hear it.
right, prior to that though, I was very privy to certain people's circumstances, giving them the confirmation that they needed.
Yeah.
Because in that case, for you, if you keep asking for evidence, it will turn up. But when it comes, will you ask for more evidence, or will you continue to say, I'm not convinced? Because you get what you ask for. So that's why I say, what does evidence look like to you? Because I've seen it 10 times over.
I'll just make this disclaimer though. I don't think there is no good answer or right answer. I think there's only your answer. So if I'm asking, your evidence specific to you, it don't have to be. It could be tangible, intangible, but it's more on, something more matters to you, or your perception, or your experience. So that's really why I'm going this route, because I really want to get your take on it. In terms so I ask you, what's the evidence?
My evidence is that I'm alive. Like I keep saying these short sentences, but I actually don't know how else to explain it other than I am alive.
Okay, fair enough.
And with every choice that I've made, it has kept me alive.
Are you sure it's your choice that kept you alive, or the fact that you're not ready? It's not your time yet to go.
I don't think it really matters. I'm still here.
It doesn't matter.
I don't think anything matters unless you want it to matter.
So you don't think anything matters?
I think because things don't matter, you are given the choice to make it matter. Because as you were saying, ultimately it's through your lens, and your reality is what you decide it to be.
Correct.
So my evidence is I am still here.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. Okay, I like it. Leads down the rabbit hole right now. Go, Streaks.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad you said that as well, because I've got both intangible and tangible. And I think that goes back to the point I made at the beginning, because I was not trying to get into it with a colleague, simply because you kind of know where that conversation will have roadblocks. But quickly, and that roadblock is proof of evidence when people can't go beyond what they've been taught.
Oof. That's a powerful one. Yeah.
So you are here, or your soul is here to help you push through what you've been taught. So keep asking these questions, because the point of asking questions is to get answers. So when you get the answer, then you just say, you know what? You take a Lee approach or my approach, and you just say, let's just kick back and enjoy the show. That's what life is. It's a show. So I'm going to kick back and enjoy it.
I like that.
Yeah, I do like that. But to give my take on it, I think I've sort of kind of hinted where my mind is. There is no wrong or right. There is only what matters to you. There is only what enlightens you, or makes the road more colorful, to provide context to somewhat paint with exuberance and colors.
Mm.
And so if it makes my road better, if it makes my road the greatest road in the world, or the greatest road as far as I'm concerned, then that's what it is.
Mm.
So it's all back to my perception. It's all back. It all goes back to how I deem it fit. So I decide what my road is and what how significant it is to me and my journey. Me personally, that's one of the biggest thing about enlightenment. What does it mean to you?
I agree. Definitely the color part as well. Because why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, they say that what it's a statistic, right? That
Mm,
the more intelligent a person is, the more depressed because
yes,
they can't escape.
really.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I know how reality works. Doesn't mean I'm going to be a Debbie Downer for the rest of my life. Like, for what? Like, it's and that the thing with that is people don't realize the depressing part isn't how everything is bleak. It's no, it's how much energy it takes to keep yourself in that state. So the longer you stay there, the more evidence you will get to realize that I'm nothing, I'm a speck, I'm a piece of sand, blah blah blah. Good for you, mate. Now you know that. What are you gonna do about it? Because the other side of that is people who are aware and do nothing. So it's like you're no different from those who are unaware. So the difference that separates you is like what you both said is the choice. So I will definitely make my life colorful so I can enjoy it. Ain't no one watching black and white TV anymore.
But I bet you were when they were watching it, it was the greatest thing in the
Oh, of
world.
course. Of course. And then, like you said, like we all agree, we are creators in our own right. I started adding colors and definition and whatever it is that I wanted to make me say, you know what, I can do what I want in this life.
Yeah,
And also, you can blend the colors, so they don't all have to be separate from each other.
mm, that's real. That's real. Um, I didn't want to conclude too quick, so that's why I just sort of just put a bow tie there because I wanted to give both of you a chance to perhaps go into another question that you may have had or prepared. Go on, strings.
Yeah. I keep forgetting this ain't Zoom because otherwise I'll be putting my hand up. But yeah, the question I had was, who are you if you don't find out where you belong?
Mm. Hmm. Well, I would imagine just off the top, somebody with a lot of questions, right? But I would say either somebody with a lot of bright bliss, or a lot of dark questions, or a lot of dark roads, not nothing to really shed light to see where you're going. A ship without a sail, you know, a life without definition. Now, to broadly put it out there, I think by nature as humans, we will have questions, and when we don't get answers, that's when everything sort of goes dark or life gets shady. For the most part, some people it's the opposite. You know, ignorance is bliss. It's a blissful life because I don't know what I need. I don't know, so I don't have questions or I don't need questions answered. But I think for the most part, people have questions, and those questions turns into. I think for the most part, people turn to mystic. to mysticism, somewhat paint gray areas
Hmm.
because they don't have the answer for some of the questions they ask, if any, at all. Certain things by default you will figure out because of intelligence and just living and being having life, existence of a being. You can sort of learn certain things. For example, morality. You know, you don't necessarily have to know the definition of morality to sort of figure out right from wrong. That's just something that comes naturally from being, you know. So that would be my answer on that one.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Who are you if you don't find out where you belong? Or what are you?
I think you would latch onto whatever identity provides you with the most external validation. I think
Yeah.
that would just be my
He
answer.
didn't pay his internet this month.
Yeah, my fault. Technical difficulties at the crib.
Yeah, I believe you. Shoot.
1 second.
So you said with the most or the least.
If you if you can't, okay. So I think ultimately where we belong is within ourselves. So if you don't find that center within yourself, what I think happens is that you latch onto whatever identity that will provide you with the most external validation
Yeah.
to make you feel worthy of belonging.
Mm. I like that answer. I like that answer. Did you were you listening straight?
Sorry, unfortunately, I missed it.
Do I repeat it or are we moving on?
Yeah.
Okay. I said that ultimately I think that we belong within ourselves. So if someone couldn't find where they belonged, I think they would latch onto whatever identity that will provide them with the most external validation to feel like they can belong.
Great, amazing. Yeah.
You ain't got no more. You gonna elaborate on that?
I could. Uh, yeah, man, completely agree. And I think what's even beautiful about that, that's a very human thing to do.
And I think the road to enlightenment isn't always making yourself better. It's just being.
Understood. Understood. But
Because
sorry, go on. Let me hear you. Rest of it. Good.
if the only thing you know how to do is make yourself better, it won't feel like you're making yourself better.
Yeah.
It's like there has to be wrong to be right. There has to be dark to be light. So the journey is not just linear. It's also making mistakes. It's also everything around just being and just living.
Yeah.
Correct.
Hmm.
I hear what you're saying, but for me personally, I think just being, it gets to a certain point where it takes you to a plateau, and being is not probably most likely not going to be good enough anymore.
Maybe our definitions of being are different.
Depends on the individual.
Are you saying living?
No,
Because I
just
think by default, that's something like we've spoken about before. It's like you say, for example, you have a craft. I think living, comes with it.
I think.
Being, I would say, same category.
I think. Okay, how I'm trying to figure out a way to explain this properly. I think when you allow yourself to just be, you're more likely to evolve. Because if there are parts of you that you can't accept, it's easier to stay in the same familiar cycle. So when you can just be and you can just accept, it opens up opportunity for you to go into different directions.
Or vice versa. Opportunities are around you, but the cycle keeps you unable to see them.
Yeah. It's the clarity that comes with just being. It's not the act itself.
The one thing I don't hear is selection. I don't hear you being selective, as in like, what does being look like for you? Like, are you saying, oh man, I'm breathing, so I'm just being? Like, what does that look like for you? You haven't really necessarily
I've got
colored
my
in.
answer as well, but go ahead, Lee.
I think when you're being, you're allowing. Okay, so in society, there's a lot of like social constructs, a lot of preconditioning that we go through, which is kind of what we were talking about before, about culture, about tradition, and like you do things because your dad used to do it or something like that, right? So we are preconditioned to think and be a certain way and live life a certain way, but that might not be authentic to ourselves. So when I'm saying being, I'm saying living in your truth and being the person that you actually are rather than what society wants you to be.
I agree with what you just explained. I agree. Now you said it, and I do like that answer. Again, it lacks definition.
I got you.
One.
I got you. With that preconditioning already in mind, the tasks then come after the questioning within yourself and putting yourself in different circumstances to be like, okay, let me try my hand in this craft, that job, different vehicles to try and put pieces together of who you are. You do that in enough times, you then build up the confidence with what information you've taken from everything and extract a new formula. Because no one comes, the purest, I mean, just for conversation's sake and time, a baby comes with a blank slate. Yeah. So depending on the conditions, etc., they use all that to find their feet, and then finding your feet is then when you actively make the choices to be like, because all that preconditioning is so intelligent. It takes a while to discover that, and that's what separates us. That's what separates man from animal, is when he questions his existence enough to be like, okay, what am I meant to do? X, Y, and Z. So
Correct.
with that being the case, just being for me is it's a bunch of different things, but it all involves me taking action. So okay, I have this dream because that's what we're here. That's what we all have. Whether it's a job, a role you want to play, an image in your mind that is so strong that you would like to see it through. That's the basis of all of this. Even being, that's an image. You don't know what it is, but you follow instinct, inspiration, love, laughter to get to that place.
Yeah.
That's being. If you don't have that, then yeah, you know.
And just to add on to the part about action, you can only be in the present moment.
That's also an action.
Yeah, exactly. So being isn't doing nothing. Being is doing everything.
But
Because
you can't do everything at the same time.
Depends what everything is.
It's not everything in the sense of like physically everything. It's
I get what you're saying, Lee. I get what you're. Listen. I'm with you. Yeah, it's 2v1. No, I'm joking.
But from what he's saying, though, the one thing I could say, even with what Strings is saying, and is somewhat forthcoming with what you're saying about being, he still said trial and error.
Because I think earlier as well, I said that you can decide what you want to shed whenever you want. In every single moment, you can decide to shed that.
Yeah.
At the same time, you can decide to choose something different.
Correct.
So it's trial and error in that sense.
Mm-hmm. But I'll just ask this one. To be all these things and master of none, is that crime in itself?
Who defines that? As in, who defines when you're a master at something?
You do.
Bingo.
So, is it a crime?
No.
But are you saying you're a master of something?
Yes, I am.
What are you a master? Well, Lee, what are you a master?
No, I wouldn't say I'm a master of anything really. And I don't think it's a crime to not be a master of anything. Wait, is that the question?
Somewhat. I mean, by your definition, just speaking on the question itself, it means that you don't seek to master anything, which means you're not a master of everything. So you're somewhat just.
It's 23 hours.
It's my laptop. You're pretty much like, somewhat lacking definition, which is, I guess, is consistent with the narrative that you painted so far.
Yeah, I don't think everything has to be defined because definitions change depending on your perspective.
Right. I agree. Because when
I
you
only
get
sorry, go on, Strings.
I was just gonna add quickly that because when you get to a different state of consciousness, the whole point is for you to flow. The better you get at that, the longer you don't stay stagnant, even with being. So where you are now, it's helping you serve its purpose. When you move forward, you will it will help you adapt to another purpose of where you are at with that vision you have in mind of just being. So
yeah. So now it's like you have me thinking, and the question I would ask is to both of you, do you believe in reaching your true in any capacity?
Could you repeat that, please? You cut out for a little bit.
Do you believe in reaching your true potential in any capacity? Speaking of crafts and lives and stuff like that.
yes. Yes, absolutely. Me personally, the biggest thing
And
that go on.
no, I was going to ask Lee confirm, and then you can explain.
Oh yeah. My take is thankfully I've been and I always come back to this. I don't even know when it started, but I asked myself this question over and over and over again. Until the answer came. And then the answer started to reveal itself, and then it became evident in many angles, different people, because I deemed it so, in order for me to not need as much confirmation for me to know where I'm at and how confident I am in where life is helping me dictate where I end up, so to speak. But in that case, the more I have fun with what it is that I'm doing, that's it. That's it. Because in the fun, the more childlike you are, that's it. Like, you just enjoy life. The seriousness comes when you become strict. You absolve yourself of different emotions and become rigid in order to
Yeah.
experience what existence you deem to have. Because again, society told you, oh, if you're an adult, so if you're this age, if you're this color, if you're this, then you must live life like this. Or from a craft's
Yeah.
point of view, if you don't achieve this, or if you don't make that, then you are nothing. And I'm like, well,
Mm.
people who succeed with the things that you would like as a byproduct of the time and effort you've given something to, the common thing is, I had fun doing this. I had fun making it. And I think I put that in my last piece I performed at the Dawson Lounge. Was I'm getting to a place where I'm just, you know what? Let me not even butcher it, because this is recorded. Yeah, I believe the genius comes from having fun. I could say all the deep things and still sound confusing. So instead, I'd rather just sit back and get intuitive.
Love that.
Go
Yeah,
on.
I think it depends on when you ask the question, are you attaching self-worth to becoming the best version of yourself? Because
Okay, let me ask it another way, just for you. Do you believe in mastery of self?
sorry.
Do you believe in mastery of self?
Um I can't say I do. I can't say I do. I just believe in being. Like, just going back to it, I just believe in being. And so that's why I'm asking whether self-worth is being attached to reaching your full potential. Because if it is, then no, I don't think so. But if it's not, and self-worth is not like a completely separate conversation, then yeah, in a sense, I believe in achieving no, I believe in understanding unconditional love and how to love freely. And this goes back to what Strings was saying about when you basically come back to your inner child,
Yeah.
without all of the preconditionings of society.
Yeah.
So I would say that for me to reach my fullest potential, it would be to be able to consistently, unconditionally, and freely love.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, but I was just asking about mastery of self. Now, no, it's not attached to. For me personally, it's not attached to self worth. But in terms of being on this earth and somewhat, I think before anything, when we're talking about crafts or anything external, I do believe you have to master self.
What,
So,
what is there to be mastered?
because I think that's the highest form of enlightenment,
So,
once
okay,
through mastering yourself.
so my thoughts on that would be that means that you haven't reached it yet. So, to me, it does sound like self-worth is attached to that in a sense,
Yeah, I
because
think
Not
it
you
is.
have to
necessarily.
master.
But I think it's all intertwined, but
Mm.
maybe not in the way you're thinking, because again we go back to the whole thing where it's not perfectionist mindset. If you know, it's all about the not necessarily the just destination. So it's not the attainment, it's the ambition to be better than I was the day before.
And
Well-
how would you feel if you weren't able to achieve that goal of mastering yourself?
Well, I'm
I'd
happy
feel
with.
disappointed.
Not really. For me personally, I feel happy in just the journey, just taking the journey in itself. I think the journey is more important than the destination.
I agree. And I guess I'm hesitant to say that I want to master myself because I believe in like reincarnation. So if I don't learn something in this lifetime, then I'll learn it in the next, and that's fine. So ultimately, I do think like we are placed here to learn and to like our souls to, what's the word? Why can't I think of the word? Evolve, that's it. Like we are here to evolve.
Well, that's the thing. So in terms of like attempting or like growing to attain self mastery or just taking that journey, can you imagine how much I would have to evolve along that way?
Facts. I hear what
And
you're
so
saying,
that's
Lee.
yeah. Go on.
Yeah. Mastery. When I hear that, I'm a huge advocate as well, bro. Mastery of self doesn't mean completion. Like, oh, I do these things, or I think of myself of a certain way. That's it. Like, I log out. I believe there's a Buddhist saying, or from Buddha, I'm not sure which one is, rule your mind or it will rule you. You let your mind run rampant, it will show you things that you will not want to wake up. So until you rule that or master the traffic of flow of thoughts where your mind goes, then being is not so easy, or having sense of self is not easy, because you will quickly always find reason for you to not feel that way, or for you to not see yourself in a good light. And so when I hear master yourself, is when I do have those days where I don't want to feel like being or accepting, I have experience and vehicles and the practice I put in to fall back on, for me to say, I give myself space to understand that this is part of an experience for me to feel those things, but I'm not going to stay there. Because ultimately, people stay there long enough, they're going to check out. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it yeah, I think it depends on the definition of mastery, because in what so in Taoism it teaches you to like surrender to what is.
Yeah.
So I guess it's two sides of the same coin, where it's like, okay, so if you surrender to what is, how is that mastering yourself? If we're looking at mastering yourself as control over your mind, how do you surrender to what is if you don't let yourself?
Go on, quick. Go on, Strings. You're on mute. Unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Governor. I could help myself. Go ahead.
Yeah. It will show you. They say when you get to a new level, life itself, the universe itself, will remind you to see if you've learned a lesson. That's how you know whether you've grown or not. That's one of the few finite ways to see if how you growth is measurable, whether we like it or not. So with life circumstances and experiences, something very familiar will come around to see if you've learned said lesson. And that is one huge side of mastery for me, because in order to get to certain destinations or journeys with people or whatever it is that we want to coincide with, you know what a bad partner is. If you stay in that and put up with that, and it's either you grow to take the abuse better, or you grow to say this is no longer the treatment I deserve. Either way, there's growth, but growth is very strongly attached to the betterment of that, because again, what quality of life do you want while you're being, or while you're mastering yourself, or while you're attaining a goal?
Mm.
So quality of life is key in these things that we're after, because two people could go at it at the same thing and get the same results, but one key factor is you will quickly decide what type of life you want to get to where it is that you're trying to go.
Mm. Okay. I think I understand. So the way I guess you guys are describing mastering yourself is how I would describe just being.
See this girl?
How I would describe just being and unconditionally loving yourself.
Yeah,
To know
I get it.
for you, to know what, where your soul, how your soul has evolved, coming from a place of love for yourself. So yeah, okay, yeah, I'd say that I would like to master myself.
Well, there you go. At least you chose
Get me.
something.
Yeah,
You made a decision.
and I get why you was probing at that, bro. And I get where you're coming from as well, Lee. I think we're all in great spaces where we are in our lives individually. It just comes back to what I said about how the longer you're on your journey, it gets easier for you to explain it to someone else,
Yeah, brutal. Brutal.
because you're going to gravitate people towards you who will say the same thing. And then the beautiful thing with knowing how to find an answer to explain and express how you feel so strongly about something is to help yourself see it so you can share that.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. All right, peeps. We're gonna have to. It's been over an hour. No, we're gonna have to wrap it up for tonight. But was it today? Tuesday. We will most likely be back on Thursday. So yeah, we'll speak, and hopefully it's been a great space, and we will eventually multiply more people to come and join us, more creators like ourselves, and we'll just build a community, and just like I said, it's a place where people can just speak and just discuss, and then go back to our own craft and just create. That's the whole idea.
And just be.
But thanks for coming on. And just be, love your soul.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's all there is.
No,
I hear it. That's where she's at, man.
And that's the way I see it. Like I said, there is no wrong or right. There's only where you are. That's it. So I appreciate you standing on what you believe. Strings, any thoughts before we go?
Yeah, Lee, thanks for joining us, man. And bro, great topic today. Definitely revolving around where we are at right now, with just it's a strong checkpoint to come back to every now and then.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Lee, any last words?
Thank you for having me. It's been enjoyable.
It was a pleasure. Thanks everyone, and so most likely Tuesday we'll be back. No, definitely Tuesday. I should be home. All right. Until next time. Take care.
Yeah, bye.